Welcome back to the Flower Garden. My name is Lisa, and in today's video I wanted to talk about something that blocks our manifestation, which we aren't usually aware of, and that is an imbalance in your divine feminine or in your divine masculine. So what I've noticed from working with all kinds of different manifestors who have different degrees of manifesting, they've been able to manifest a lot of big things, if you will, like, homes and money and cars and things like that. And also people who have been able to manifest small things, like coffees and seeing specific signs, but they're maybe having trouble, manifesting some of the bigger things. And the reason I'm saying bigger, smaller is because this is usually how people describe it to me when they describe it. So I'm just using the same words. Obviously, the universe doesn't differentiate between big or small, size, nothing, none of that matters to the universe. Nothing is, nothing is too large to manifest. Nothing is too much. Nothing is too little, right? It's all the same. It's all energy. But what I see most often is a divine feminine imbalance, okay, which creates blocks. And this is because most of us have a very masculine approach to manifesting, okay? And a lot of it is, if we look at some of the more divinely masculine traits, we see things like, pushing forward, growth, and forward movement, getting things done, taking things, right? And it's very aggressive, right? It's very penetrative, right? It's very much just getting stuff, right? Whereas with a more of the feminine traits, what we see is more about becoming attractive to what it is that you want, right? More about that inner work, right? Developing your intuition, about being more passive, right? And allowing things to happen, right? Being open to the possibilities, okay? And I think that most people, on YouTube and other spaces, they do talk about this. They do talk about these different traits, but it is very much confused and intermingled with everything. And there's no distinction between the divine masculine and the divine feminine, right? And so what I want to talk about is how important it is for us to create this balance with both the yin and the yang, right? The divine feminine, divine masculine, right? Yang is divine masculine, yin is the divine feminine. But before I do that, I want to talk about what it looks like when you have a divine feminine imbalance, okay? And what those blocks look like, okay? So the first sign is you lean too much into your divine masculine tendencies, okay? So things that I mentioned earlier, and I'm going to read it off the list here, right? So these include thinking, logic, outcome, assertion, rigidness, going, and again, that penetrative energy, right? And then also something that I see show up is feelings of unworthiness, of receiving what you desire as you are now, okay? So this is a lack of acceptance, right, of who you are, which is more of a feminine trait. It's more about that divine, radical acceptance and love. The masculine traits are more about, growing, getting better, right, achieving new heights, being the best version of yourself, okay? And that means constantly analyzing yourself and seeing, well, how can I get better, right? How can I be better? Okay, so that's the second thing that I see. The third sign that I see with the divine feminine imbalance, meaning that you lean more into your masculine, is you feel guilty about receiving gifts and blessings, okay? So you feel guilty about it, especially if you didn't do anything to receive it, right? So that means, if something just lands into your lap, or if a friend, wants to buy you dinner or something like that, you feel uncomfortable with that, right? You feel kind of guilty because you're like, well, I didn't do anything for this, right? Like this is just something that I'm receiving without having done anything to earn it, right? So there's this mentality that you have to earn everything, that you aren't innately worthy of having things just as you are, just for being who you are, right? It's more about earning things and achieving things in that way. The fourth sign that I see with people who have a divine feminine imbalance and lean more into their divine masculine is always worrying about the how of your manifestation, right? So always thinking about how will this come? when will this come, setting dates for things like, okay, by October 1st, I'm going to get this, right? Or, you know, if I don't manifest this in 3 days, you know, whatever, things like that, okay? And constantly worrying about how, okay? So something that I saw recently was I was doing a Facebook Live. Also, if you don't follow me on Facebook, go ahead and do that. I'll include the link down below. I do Facebook Lives on there. I answer questions. It's great. But something that I had someone ask me was, how do I manifest receiving an email? And so to me, when somebody asks me, how do I manifest receiving an email? To me, what they're actually asking me is, I want this outcome, right? So with this person specifically, I know her and I know that she's waiting to receive, what's it called? When you get a job, right? Like getting hired for something. So she was waiting for that. She was waiting for the news that she got hired, okay? And she asked me, okay, so how do I manifest this email, receiving this email that I'm hired? And what I had to tell her was, you're worrying about the how, okay? You're worrying about, you know, I want this to come in this form, right? And then that's validation to me. You know, that validates that I'm powerful and I'm a manifestor and I can make things happen, okay? If it comes in this form to me. However, we have to loosen up, right? And realize that it's not your job to worry about the how, okay? It's your job to, you know, to focus on the outcome. So that's exactly what I told her. I said, what you want is to get hired, right? And you're focusing on the how. That's your divine feminine imbalance, right? You're leaning into your masculine. You're worrying about the how it's going to happen, analyzing it, okay? So instead of doing that, you have to, you know, not do that, right? Focus on the outcome and make sure that you're thinking about getting hired. So that could be, you know, you could receive a text. You could run into the person, right, that's hiring you, the hiring manager, and they tell you, oh, hey, you got hired, right? Or, you know, a multitude of things could happen. You know, don't limit yourself to just this format, right? Like, if I receive this email, that means I'm hired, right? It could be anything. So we have to focus on the outcome and not the step-by-step. Again, that's a divine feminine imbalance, right? And the fifth thing that I see with people who have a divine feminine imbalance is they generally tend to push away dealing with their emotions and neglect their inner child. Okay, so that sounds kind of extreme, but you know, when we think about the traditional, right, the traditional role of masculinity in society, right, especially in Western society, okay, a man is not supposed to feel emotions, not supposed to cry, supposed to just, you know, get through it, just keep pushing through. And when you do that, what happens is you're pushing your emotions away, right? And you're neglecting the healing that needs to happen for your inner child, okay? So something that I want to talk about is the father archetype versus the mother archetype, okay? And I'll get into the mother archetype once I talk about the divine masculine imbalance, okay? But right now, with the divine father archetype, okay, think of it this way. The divine father archetype, okay, or just the father archetype, not divine, just the father archetype, right, that represents the divine masculine, okay? The father archetype, when you think of just a traditional, good old Western dad, right, he wants you to be better, he wants you to, you know, do sports, he's the one that teaches you how to ride your bike, he's the one that teaches you how to swim, he's the one that does all of these things, so constantly promoting growth, forward movement, you know, giving you pep talks and things like that, okay? So that is the father archetype, okay, that represents your divine masculine, right? So something important to do, especially with an imbalance, is asking yourself, when do I need to be the father to my inner child, right? When do I need to be that father archetype, you know, push myself forward, tell myself to be better, give myself that pep talk? And when do I need that mother archetype, okay? So it's important to be aware of your needs, right? So instead of pushing those emotions away, like we just talked about when you have that divine feminine imbalance, okay? Instead of pushing those emotions away, instead of neglecting that inner child, it's important to have that awareness, right? And think about, well, with this present moment, the way that I am right now, what do I need? Do I need the father archetype or do I need the mother archetype? Okay, and then we'll talk about the mother archetype in a second. So then on the other hand, what I see with people who have a divine masculine imbalance, they lean more into their feminine, right? So these are the things that I see, okay? They lean too much into their divine feminine tendencies, right? And this includes feeling, intuition, focusing on the process, attraction, flexibility, flow, being open and receptive, right? Versus our previous list. So that's the first thing that I see, right? The second thing that I see with people who have a divine masculine imbalance, meaning they lean too much into their divine feminine, is they don't take any inspired action to begin to draw their manifestation closer to them, right? So whereas with the divine masculine, what you see is this constant push towards, growth and making yourself the person that, you want to be, and all of this stuff, taking all of this action to get your manifestation, right? If it's, if you want to be a millionaire, right? Maybe it's, okay, I'm going to start this business and I'm going to, invest in things and taking those inspired actions, right? With someone who has a divine masculine imbalance, meaning they lean into their divine feminine a bit too much, is they don't take that inspired action, right? They don't even know what the next step is, okay? So they're just kind of sitting there and they're focused on, okay, well, I'm going to do all this inner work. I'm going to feel my emotions. I'm going to work through my emotions. And then what, right? So there's no real world application, right? The third thing that I see with people who have a divine masculine imbalance, meaning that they lean into their feminine too much, is they often feel like a victim of circumstances, okay? And always feel like they never receive what they want, right? They always feel like, oh, I'm just kind of at the will of the universe, and, maybe not to that extreme level, because if you're someone who's watching this video, likely you have done the work to, start identifying your victim mentalities. And if you haven't, do that. It's great to do. But that's something else that I see, right, is kind of this victim mentality of like, well, this is happening, how am I going to achieve what I want if this is standing in my way? My family is so negative, or, I'm overweight and I want this body, and like, how is that going to happen when I don't even know how to do that, right? So this kind of just like this whiny victim mindset, right? The fourth thing that I see is you're not even sure of what you want, right? If you have a divine masculine imbalance, you're not even exactly sure of what you want, but you're aware that you're unhappy in your current situation and that you're stuck not making any changes, since you don't even know what changes you need to make, right? So again, this goes back to that, inspired action where you're unhappy, okay, but you don't even know, like, what do I really want? Right? Like, because you're so much in your feminine, right? Leaning so much in your feminine energy, constantly just being passive, receptive, being open, right? You're not taking the time, to take action, right? To figure out what it is that you want, okay? And the flip side of that coin is, you're afraid of taking those actions, right? To make your desires happen. It terrifies you to have that forward movement, okay? And I see this most often with people who, may have like a corporate job, right? And they really want to do something else. They're miserable in their 9-to-5, and they know that they want to do something else, but they're just so afraid of taking that first step of just leaving that miserable job, right? So this is just an example of something that I see, right? Of that fear of change, of taking action. And then the last sign when it comes to people who have a divine masculine imbalance, meaning they lean too much into their divine feminine, is they do a lot of inner child work, okay, and a lot of shadow work, but they're not progressing in life to where they want to be, right? So even though they're doing all of this inner work, working through things, they're still kind of in the same spot that they were before, right? And they're not really progressing in their career and, financially and things like that. So now I want to talk about the divine feminine as represented by the mother archetype, okay? So we just talked about the father archetype. The father archetype, again, is, all about pushing you forward, getting you to be better, just the traditional dad energy, okay? And then the mother archetype, when you think of the mother archetype, it's all about love, acceptance, nurturing, okay? And this is the reason that there are, 35-year-old men who live with their mom. It's because their mom just loves them, wants them to be fed, wants them to be loved, wants them to have a roof over their house or a roof over their head, and doesn't care, right? She just loves them, accepts them exactly as they are. And, that doesn't, I'm not saying like that's every mom, but I'm just thinking the traditional, right, mother archetype. Whereas the dad is probably like, why the hell is this guy still here? Go find a job, right? So think of it in those terms, right? So when we're doing that healing work, right? When we're trying to balance ourselves, okay? So that way we can manifest with ease, with peace, with confidence, right? When we want to do that, we have to be in alignment. And what does alignment mean? It means creating balance, okay? And so if you identified having a divine feminine imbalance, okay, meaning you lean too much into your masculine, okay, you're constantly go, 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 push, push, push. Or if you've identified that you have a divine masculine imbalance, right, meaning that you're leaning more into your feminine, so you're kind of passive, going with the flow, not really taking too much action, right, but just kind of hoping that things just kind of land in your lap, right? If you've identified having either of those, okay, you want to start to heal that by thinking of these mother-father archetypes, okay? So you have to identify in my manifestation process, right? When I'm manifesting and I'm thinking about the general thoughts that I have about it, whatever it is that I'm manifesting, okay? What do I need right now? Okay, so think of it this way. There's your inner child, right? Your inner child is you. The father archetype is also you. The mother archetype is also you, okay? So you have to, push and pull on both of these sides of you to give yourself what you need at any given time, right? So if there's something you're manifesting and you're like realizing, okay, so I'm being really pushy with this, I'm worrying about the how, I'm worrying about like, when is this gonna happen? I'm specifying, like with the example that I gave you with the email, okay? Like this has to come in an email, right? When you start noticing yourself doing that, that's a sign that you want to lean into your divine feminine, okay? And start to be more process-oriented, more about doing that healing work, more about allowing and attracting, making yourself attractive to what it is you want, rather than pushing, doing, going, and getting it done, right? Which is what you're doing with that example, right? Whereas if you see yourself with whatever it is you're trying to manifest, maybe it's a financial goal and you see yourself just kind of stuck in the same job, doing the same thing, not really taking that inspired action, maybe it's time to bring in that father archetype, right? And get that father archetype to push you, right? And give yourself that motivation, okay? To take that inspired action, to grow, to be better. Right? So with whatever it is you're manifesting or, whatever healing work you're doing, it's so important to have that awareness of what do I need right now? Do I need the mother? Do I need the father? What part of myself do I need to implement right now? And what is out of balance? Okay? Because it's not that every single person is only going to have a divine feminine imbalance or only going to have a divine masculine imbalance. It can be both, right? It can be a mix of both depending on what your mindset is around certain things, okay? We're all unique, different people. We all have different upbringings, and you can have different mindsets about different things, right? So it's important to have that awareness to be like, well, where are my imbalances, right? What can I balance about the things that I want to manifest? So that way I can manifest from a place of alignment and I can manifest with confidence, with ease, and with peace. If you found that helpful, then make sure you comment below and let me know what imbalances you found in yourself and what are you going to do to balance them out. I would love to know. And if you want to watch more law of attraction content about keeping your mindset positive, about personal development, about aliens, maybe, we don't know, make sure you check out these videos right here. And until next time, I really hope you have a good day and a good week, and I love you. Bye.